Hi, I'm Andy, and this is a video about setting up for developing on Android. I thought I'd do things a bit differently this time, so it's night. Normally I make my videos in the morning. So it's just you and me here. Everything's quiet. And whilst I normally make my videos in the morning, I write almost all of my open source code at night when everyone else is asleep. So this is my favourite time. And now I'm sharing it with you. I'm also doing things a bit differently in that what I'm about to do I haven't actually done before, so I'll probably have to do a bit of editing of this video before it's consumable by you. And in fact I may just throw it away and decide not to upload it, but I thought I'd give it a go. So I have done some Android development before. I have been experimenting a bit with IntelliJ, but what I'm going to do in this video is take you through with me getting the IntelliJ based Android development environment, setting it up and hopefully getting something on the screen on the device. First thing we need to do is go to developer.android.com, click on develop, and then click on Tools. They're still pushing the Eclipse-based environment as the main thing that they're pushing, but when I tried it, it seemed like it was sort of dropping out of being supported. Things weren't working and no one's that interested in fixing them. So I got the distinct impression that all the cool guys are using this thing called Android Studio, and all Google stuff's always in beta anyway, isn't it? So that's fine. So click on the Get Android Studio button, scroll down and choose the bundle for your operating system. So I'm on Linux, I chose the Linux thing and I did save link as. I won't make you sit through me downloading it. I've downloaded it to my desktop, so let's go and unzip it. So here it is on my desktop. I'll just double click it. That contains a folder called Android Studio. I'm going to stick it on my desktop and then I'm going to move it into /opt. So I'll extract it onto my desktop. Now it's here on my desktop. I'm just going to move it into /opt. /opt is the normal place on Linux where you put programs that you've installed, not using the proper package management system. So it's gone off my desktop and it's in /opt. So let's just go into /opt ourselves. Go into that directory and see what's been unzipped in there. If we have a look at the install file, I'm assuming I can just unzip and run. Yes. So JVM options. Let's ignore that stuff and try running it. So I'll seed it into that bin directory. Later on I'll make a shortcut to this somewhere so that I don't have to do this, but for the moment let's do /studio.sh and hopefully IntelliJ will load up for us. So it's offering to update our settings, or import our settings from a previous version, but I haven't got any previous setup, so I'll just say no. So as I was saying, this is Android Studio is based on IntelliJ, which is made by JetBrains, and the version of IntelliJ, the community edition of IntelliJ, is completely and fully open source, which was a surprise to me. I hadn't realised they'd done that. It comes out under the Apache 2 license, so it's properly free software. So I'm comfortable using it. Let's have a look at what it's saying to us. So First of all, it's telling me not to use OpenJDK, but I generally ignore people who tell me that because I'd rather use the free software version. It's also telling me a new update's available, so if I click on that, will it get it for me? Doesn't seem to be. Oh, it says check for updates here. Alright, so let's update it. Just make sure we're on the absolute latest version, otherwise we could have problems. Now, even though I moved all this stuff into /opt, I unzipped it as my normal user. So the permissions in that folder are inside /opt. /opt is only writable by root, but that folder inside is writable by me, so it should be able to update itself quite happily in there. It looks like it has, and it's done that quite quickly. Let's get rid of that message, see how we go. Okay, so let's make a new project. Let's make a new Android project, if we can. That seems to be able to maximize the window. Alright. Okay, new project. So I'm gonna just call this Android sample for now. I'm assuming this video turns out okay. I'm going to make a few more videos, and I'll show you how I plan to port a little game I've been writing with rabbits in it onto Android. And specifically, my area of interest is not just having it working on Android, but writing most of my code in a way that is not specific to Android and can be unit tested and run on a normal PC. Whereas previous Android projects I've done, I felt very tied to the Android platform. For example, when I wanted to run my unit test, I had to run them actually on an emulator or on my device. And that's too slow for me. I found that annoying, so I'm trying to work out how to make my code work on Android, but also most of it be non-Android specific. I'll put in my real domain name, and where do I want to put this? For now, I'll put it in my code local directory, in a directory called Android sample. That seems fair enough. Click next. Okay, so we need to choose which version of Android our program is going to run on. I would like it to run on my rather old phone, and I would also like it to run on other people's old phones, so I'm going to choose an ancient version of Android. I think 2.2 will be good enough. That's going to mean that I've got I haven't got as many of the modern Android features available to me, but if it runs on my phone, it's going to run on your phone, so that'll make me feel happy. Next. Oops, I missed that. Okay, so create a new project. So it's asking me whether I can set me up with a kind of predefined setup. There's a maps-based activity. An activity is just basically a screen in your Android program. I think let's start with a blank activity, and hopefully then it'll be easier. I can try and explain some of the concepts a bit more from there. So what's next? Seem to have moved the window outside of where I can click on it. Maybe if I put myself over here, I'll be less annoying. Okay, so let's just call this first activity. What we're going to do is, for this video, we're only going to make one activity, and it's just going to say hello or something. So call it that for now. I presume it's doing something. Yeah, now as it said on their website, this Android Studio thing, which is IntelliJ plus a few things, uses Gradle to build your projects, which is the build tool that all the cool kids use rather than Ant. So whilst I have been experimenting with IntelliJ, I haven't been experimenting with Gradle, but I would very much like to learn about Gradle because I certainly see limitations in the use of Ant. In fact, I much prefer to use Make to build things, even though in a Java project that can be quite annoying. But maybe Gradle is the answer to that, so I'll be interested to see how it works. I expect, probably, with a Gradle that's built into Android Studio, we're not going to see that much of for the moment. It should just work. So as I say, when I tried the recent version of the Eclipse-based Android development setup, when I tried to do the wizards, like the wizard that we just did to set up a new project, it didn't work properly. I ended up with a kind of broken Android project immediately when I went into Eclipse. It looks to me so far like this is working better than that. So perhaps my expectations that they're not really supporting the Eclipse-based environment very well. Right, I don't know. So at the moment, it's running a Gradle build, which is going and fetching a huge number of dependencies, including an assembler, a linter. Oh, that looks like that's the Android build tools. Okay, it looks like it's finished. Yeah, okay, so it must be presumably going and getting dependencies that let you do C and C++ development on your Android device within the studio. I wasn't aware that that was supported. So one of the things that I've been very aware of in IntelliJ is these tips that pop up at the beginning, and I haven't turned them off. I almost always turn off these tips, but I wanted to get the hang of IntelliJ, so I left them on, and there are actually some quite nice tips that pop up when you come into IntelliJ. I assume they're similar to the ones that pop up here, so I'd recommend leaving them on for a while. And it tells you a few things like stuff you didn't know you could do, or what the keyboard shortcut for this is, stuff like that. Okay, so let's close that tip and have a look at what it's done for us. It's just notifying us that Gradle finished doing what it's doing, which is getting all those dependencies. Still loading its preview over here. It's made as an application. So I'm guessing this is the Android sample directory, so we told it to put it in the directory called Android sample. All the .idea, .idea folder files to do with IntelliJ, or the Android Studio itself. Then all of our code is going to go inside this app thing, I guess. You've got a build directory, which I presume is stuff that gets built for you. And then our source code goes in source, and it's already made a test directory for us, interestingly. And it's made a directory for the main code base, and it's made some directories inside res, which is where things like images and stuff like that get put. And you have this horrible thing that I really haven't got my head around properly, of having to provide images of different resolutions, but no one will tell you what size those images should be. Anyway, so all your different size images go inside these drawable directories, and various other non-Java stuff goes inside this res directory. And once you're in your code, you can refer to that stuff in quite a neat way, which I'll show you. So let's open up the Java part, have a look at what we've got. So in here, it's made a package based on what I said my domain name was and what the name of this project is. And then it's made a class called first activity, because I told it to make our activity be called first activity. So let's have a quick look at what an activity looks like. So an activity is basically a place where you can be in an Android app. So the rule of thumb for it is when you press the back button in your phone or your tablet, it will go back to the previous activity. So an activity is like a location or a thing that you're doing. Yeah, I'm not sure that's strictly true. When you go back to the previous menu chunk. That may all be one activity, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about that. So one of the things you're going to need to get the hang of if you're doing Android development is the fact that your application could get paused at any moment and then it'll get resumed. And when it gets resumed, it's your job to basically recreate the state that it was in before, having saved it previously. So when things start running, this onCreate method is going to get called. And it's going to get this thing, which is a bundle, which is basically a load of property values or a load of objects. And it's called saved instance state. So basically, this onCreate method is supposed to look at this stuff, all the information that you saved into one of these when you got told you were going to pause. And it basically needs to rebuild itself to look exactly like it did at that previous moment. So all that this activity does at the moment is basically says, you know, this predefined layout that I've made, we'll set that to be the layout which this activity displays. So a layout is a description of how things are laid out. So basically all this onCreate is saying is you have to call into the superclass. You do that a lot with these standard methods. And then it says use this layout and don't do anything else at all. And this layout is here, which has also been made for us. And basically a layout just tells it what to put on the screen, and there's a bunch of stuff about what that's like, and then it says, and the only thing that's in this layout is this text view, and the text that you should display inside the text view. So text view is just a thing with some writing in it. The text that you should display in this text view is this resource called string/hello world. So if I look in the resources somewhere, perhaps in the stuff that got built automatically. Yeah, sure where it's coming. Here we are. Yeah, so in our resources section, we can define a load of strings. The reason you could just write in hello here. The reason you don't is because you might want to translate it later. So what you do is you make a file called strings.xml. One of those strings is hello world, and you put in the English for it there. And what that means is that someone can come along later, or you can come along later, provide another version of strings.xml in another language. And when we refer to this hello world thing in our code, you'll get the English or you'll get whatever language is appropriate coming out. So in this case we're saying @string, which means go and look inside the strings.xml. Yes. And then the thing inside strings.xml that you should display is this thing called hello world. And you'll notice we've got a preview of what our application is going to look like on someone's phone over here. So this is the layout. This is helping us understand what our layout is actually going to look like. And there's graphical tools to edit our layout as well. You don't have to edit the XML, although often I quite like to. So it's just telling me it's failed to render this properly. Interesting. Let's try a different theme. Classic. Maybe a classic theme. Okay, stop complaining. So here we go. This is what this layout is going to look like on a phone. So basically it's made a title bar for us. In fact, the way it did that was it said this is an action bar activity. So that's what made this action bar at the top, and then we've got one text view in there says hello world. If I edit that, I should be able to make the font bigger if I'm smart about it. Oh no, yeah, what I need to do is, yeah, okay, so at the moment we look at the XML for this activity, and you can always do that as far as I've seen in Android stuff, but they also give you a graphical editor, which sometimes works and sometimes you have to drop to the XML. Often when I've been making real activities that do anything interesting, I've actually found that I can't make it work in XML at all. I've had to write Java code. So you also have the option of writing Java code that just creates your layout in code, and that works nicely. So here's our text view, and here it is in our properties box. So we've got all the different properties of this text view, and somewhere presumably we'll be able to change how it looks. Oh, there's predefined styles of thing. I wonder whether that will work. No. So somewhere you're going to have a font for this. I wonder whether I'm going to waste too much of your time trying to look for it. There's the font family. Here's the height. What if we just made it 100 high? 100 pixels. Oh no, that's changed the height of the text view, not the size of the font. Okay, but anyway, that's good. That's the kind of thing you can do. Text size, how about that? These are all measured in DPs. DIPs and DPs. Yeah, I can't remember what the meaning of those. We'll get into that if we start doing this for real. So let's make this 20 DP and see how big that is. It's a bit bigger. It's really not as big as I was like I want it to be. There you go, it's pretty big. So now our program says hello world, pretty big, and that's good enough for me. So what I want to do next, if I can, is get this to actually display on my phone. So first of all, let's just say what we've been doing. And I know that I'm going to need to set up my phone properly. I haven't done that before on this machine, just for you, so you can watch me do it. So I've plugged my phone into the USB socket, and I've also turned on USB debugging, but I'll talk briefly about how you do that. So you want to go to this device page using hardware devices under tools, and then on Linux there's a little bit of fiddling you have to do, which we'll do in a minute. But the first thing you're going to need to do is make your phone happy to talk to your computer. So in the olden days you just went to developer options and clicked on enable USB debugging. But on recent phones, in order to make that menu option even appear, you have to go to settings about phone and then tap the build number 7 times. Not 3 times. Not once, but 7 times. So anyway, go to settings about phone, tap on the build number on your screen. This is all on your phone. On your phone, tap on the build number 7 times. And then once you've done that, go to like settings and the developer options, and you should find somewhere in there enable USB debugging or allow USB debugging. Once you've got that, you need to make sure in your Android manifest.xml you have debuggable equals true. Now, I'm fairly sure it would have set that up for us automatically. Here's our Android manifest.xml. I don't see it there. Let's add it in. What does it say? Add to the application element Android debuggable equals true. I'm going to start reformatting things the way I like them. Okay, so listen, it appears these instructions are wrong. It's complaining to me saying don't hard code the debug mode. Just allow running as debug clicking the debug button up here in IntelliJ, and then it'll set that for you. So let's put that back out of us. Okay, so these instructions are a bit wrong, I think. So we've enabled USB debugging. Now the next thing we need to do is make my actual computer be able to speak to it. And on Linux, it's a bit annoying. You need to manually create a udev rule, which I'd never done before I had to do this. But anyway, all it needs is a very small file put somewhere with an ID in it. So we have to log in as root and create a file. A bit smaller. So become root. I hope you can't hear my password. Sure you can't. Okay, so let's make a file. You can use gedit to do this or something if you prefer. So long as you're root when you do it, you can't make a file in this directory unless you're root. So you might want to just type sudo and then the name of your editor, sudo kate or sudo gedit or something. But you know me, I like the vim. Okay, so I've become root and now I'm editing a file in /etc/udev/rules.d called 51-android.rules. So that file didn't exist already. I've made it. And then the udev rule that we need to, udev is the system in Linux which recognizes hardware and sends it somewhere, or sort of does something when the hardware gets plugged in. So this is a piece of USB hardware, and we need this ID vendor code to get passed through. I don't know what the other things mean. Anyway, we've got to make this file with that one line in it, and we've got to change that vendor ID to be right. And actually, nicely for me, my phone is an HTC phone, from back when HTC phones were the thing to have, and so they've already given me the correct vendor ID that I need in here. If your phone is not an HTC phone, then you need to replace that code there with the code from lower down on this page. So we'll do that bit in a minute. We may have to, no, we won't have to do that. In a second we'll do that. So first I want to show you this list of vendor IDs. So you have to know who made your phone. In my case it was HTC, so I put in here the 0BB4 that's in the in between these quotes here. Just change that to be whatever code is listed here for your device. And most people probably got Samsung, so most people want to put 04E8 in there. Okay, so I've made the file. I'll save it, and I also need to make it readable by everyone. So chmod all are allowed to read. Name of the file, and now all users can read that file. So let's try it as not root for a start. No, I haven't got this stuff on the path. So when it says to use ADB, it's expecting me to have this ADB program already on my path, but I haven't done that. So I wonder where it is. STK tools probably. Nope. Platform tools, maybe. Yeah, ADB. So I typed in ADB devices, but I had to give the full path of ADB. On here it tells me to just type ADB devices. Oh, in fact, I'm going to look, it told me what directory I should be in. So I typed in ADB devices, it told me it started a daemon, and then it says there's something attached but I don't know what it is. Now probably that's because I attached my phone before I made this udev rule. So I'm going to unplug the phone and plug it in again, like so. Let's see whether that helps. So my phone says USB debugging connected, which actually it said last time as well, so that doesn't give us any clues. Ah, but look, when I say ADB devices now, it says device, so that's good, I think. So now, I know that my phone has been enabled for debugging, and that my computer knows about my phone sufficiently to recognize it with ADB. So now I ought to be able to run this program on my phone. Let's try it. So I'm going to click on the debug button. I could have clicked on the run button, possibly. Something's bound to go wrong, so I'd rather be in debug mode. And IntelliJ is running Gradle. It's doing a whole load of stuff. Now, what it'll be doing is building the binary package of our program, and then copying it onto the phone. Once it's copied and installed on the phone, it will then run it, and it will run it in a mode where it's listening back to this computer, so this computer can control it for debugging, so you can do things like stepping through line by line of your code. So it's asking me which device I want to run on. I want to run on my XGC phone. Oh look, it's 2.3, not 2.2. Maybe I should have chosen that. So I will, for the moment, I'll say use that device for future launches. Click OK. So look what it did. It knew about the device. It had already built this APK file, which is the binary package build of our code, and it was going to copy it onto the phone, and everything was going swimmingly, except I've got 0 space on my phone. So I'm going to have to delete some stuff off my phone. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so now I've cleared enough space on my device, which I did by basically deleting everything that I'm allowed to delete, including all the things I wanted on there. I've now made enough space on my phone that I can run the debugger. So if I click on this little debug button, our little program that we've got so far that shows Hello World on the screen will get copied onto my phone, and then it will get run, and then the debugger will get attached to it. This debugger on this machine will get attached to the phone. And while I was waffling on about all that, it's copied it over and run it, and it's actually running on my phone, and I can show you if I get it really close to the screen. It says Hello World. There's the little title bar at the top. If I turn it sideways, it even turns sideways for you. So it really works. Much better, by the way, than showing you that, is to show you a screenshot. It's quite nice and easy to pull a screenshot off the device. What you do is you click on this button here, which says Android Device Monitor. For some reason it has to stop debugging to do this, so I say yes to stop debugging. First time I opened this, I had to click through I agree to the terms and conditions button. Once I'm on here, I can click on the device here, and I've got this little screenshot button, and that's an actual screenshot of exactly what the screen looks like on my phone. And if I turn the phone sideways and make another screenshot, it will show me the actual screen that's showing on that device. So that's really quite useful. Interesting. Yeah, okay. it was obviously halfway through showing a message when I took the screenshot. So it's that accurate that it really shows you the actual pixels that are on the screen there. So there we are. You've joined me in my dark nighttime world of coding. We've downloaded Android Studio, unzipped it, got it running. I even managed to get a tiny little sample application up and running, change the font size on it, run it on a real phone and take screenshots of it. So as we continue, we'll look at how you would write a game on Android. The type of game that I'm going to be looking at is going to draw graphics on the screen in a sort of game loop. And as I said before, my focus is going to be on how you write most of your logic outside of the Android world, so that your program works in other environments and is quicker to unit test and things like that, but also integrates nicely into Android. So I'm basically going to be writing generic Java where I can, but all the sort of game loop and everything that needs to be in order for Android to look nice, you've got to be writing code that's highly specific for the user interface and the game loop. So I'll be writing that specific to Android, combining it with the generic stuff. So that's it for now. See you next time.